everyone. My name is David McLeod, and I am your life mastery coach and author of the delightful little book, A Life to Die For. I'm also one of the co-authors in the best-selling series, The Wellness Universe Guide to Complete Self-Care. Welcome to Life Mastery TV, your source for inspiration, empowerment, and fulfillment. Today, we embark on episode number 246, and this episode is entitled Ripples of Inspiration. I made a typo in my notes here. Anyway, that's what it is, Ripples of Inspiration. Now, take a moment and just imagine you're standing on the edge of a calm lake and you have a pebble in your hand and you just kind of toss that pebble in the water. I mean, who hasn't done that, right? As a stone touches the surface of the water, the ripples start to spread outward in ever widening circles. This simple little act, so small and yet so powerful and impactful, is just a great metaphor for how inspiration works in our lives. Just as the rippling waves reach far beyond the initial splash, the inspiration you share expands outwards, giving rise to waves that impact everything that it comes in contact with. Now, creating ripples of inspiration is something deeply personal, and yet it has universal significance. Everything we do, our thoughts, our words, our actions, our emotions, our choices, and the consequences they bring about, even our very beingness, can influence and uplift others, contributing to a larger collective good. And isn't that what we're all about here at Life Mastery TV? Most people, I think, seek to improve themselves and their lives. At the same time, people tend to desire the best for everyone else in their lives. We also have visionary ideas for the kind of world we want to create and live in. And who doesn't want to leave a legacy behind? So we develop intentions, mission statements, and business plans to try and bring our vision into reality. We seek to find our own way to create ripples of inspiration to benefit the world we live in. For this episode of Life Mastery TV, I'm delighted to welcome Holly Jean Jackson to our program. As a revenue and performance consultant and founder of Business Builder Throwdown, Holly Jean helps business leaders get their groove back physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And today she's going to share her wisdom and expertise to help us translate our desire to inspire into a holistic and logistical approach to success. So please welcome Holly Jean Jackson to the program.
Hello. Hi, David.
Hi there. Now, I should have asked you this before we started, and I'm sorry I didn't, but do you prefer to be called Holly or Holly Jean?
Great question. Holly Jean, because there's a Holly in the UK who writes murder books.
Okay, so that's good to know. Holly Jean, I kind of like that. It just has a really nice ring to it. And it's not, I mean, Holly is a fairly common name and Jean is a fairly common name, but to see the two of them together married in that beautiful way is not something that I see all that often. So Holly Jean it is.
Yeah, great to have you here, David. Like, I'm super excited for your show. I've heard wonderful things about you from your community and from past episodes. I'm just so delighted to be here.
Well, great. And I'm glad to have you here as well. I was looking through your bio and forgive me for saying this, but you seem pretty young to me for someone who's got so much wisdom and experience in the field of, financial support and finding ways to help people get inspired into their business. Tell me a little bit about your own journey. How did you come to this place where you decided that you wanted to do this kind of work with other people?
Yeah, well, first of all, I look younger than I am, so got lots of experience, many years under my belt, even though my gray hair still does show. It is natural gray hair, y'all. So I used to work in corporate. I worked at companies like Visa and Treasury Wine Estates and University of California. And I was really a technologist, but also a strategist as an executive. And I found myself getting laid off constantly, even as a top performer. And coupled with those layoffs, I had some pretty significant health challenges or pain setbacks. And I saw that pattern and really got tired of it. And the last layoff I had, I just decided this isn't a pattern I want to repeat anymore. I'm tired of being treated like an intrapreneur, somebody who creates new experiences and programs for a company and not being recognized and rewarded for my support and contributions. So I decided to go out on my own. And ultimately, at first, I knew I wanted to heal the world. And I started off just in the healing space as like a health coach. But I decided I wanted to help business owners, small business owners who were doing good things through community, through services that they had, through nonprofits, go big so that they could give big to have a bigger ripple effect.
Wow, that's beautiful. And what you're saying kind of resonates with me. I having gone through a lot of that, um, what is it called? Wash, rinse, repeat. Well, that's kind of how my life went for a long time. I ended up doing the same things over and over and over again, expecting different results. And don't we define that as kind of insanity? And yeah, so I know exactly what you mean about maybe finding that place eventually that your body says, "Hey, no more. This isn't really working for me." We got, and that's really amazing that you had the awareness about what was going on in your body to say something's going on here. It's telling me I shouldn't be continuing in this direction that I'm going. I got to find a new direction. Do you find that
Yeah.
that happens with a lot of customers that you work with, and also with yourself?
Yeah. So what I would say is with the customers I work with, they come to me where at the point where they're burnt out, they're overwhelmed, they've tried a lot of different strategies. Perhaps they've worked with different marketing agencies or coaches or consultants, and they're at a juncture where they need things to work and nothing else that they've tried has worked. So they are slightly distrustful because they've had bad experiences working with other folks, and they are committed to taking action to make this work for their business and to help it up level to that next place. But what I also find is they're pretty overwhelmed and burnt out because nothing has worked. And so when we're working together, yeah, there are a lot of things in terms of their mindset and also in terms of physically how they're showing up, how they're feeling, that affects, how we're going to proceed with that roadmap to success for them in a way that's sustainable and scalable without them digging the hole any deeper, so to speak. So absolutely, we work on that really holistical approach to make sure that we're taking it at a pace that they can actually manage and maintain, which, by the way, is why I really added a lot of consulting to this work and not just coaching, because a lot of folks I work with, they don't have the time, David. They're burnt out and they need somebody to build systems, standard operating procedures, and templates that they can just run with day one.
Right, right. Well, I noticed you mentioned a powerful keyword in there, and that was the word roadmap. And I think I can speak for myself, and I suspect this is probably true for a lot of people. As I mentioned earlier, a part of my journey, it felt like I was just on a random walk. I wasn't really following a particular plan. I didn't really know the truth of who I really was, and therefore I wasn't sure what my purpose was. And that part of my life lasted a good 45 years. It wasn't until I was in my 50s that I finally started to get finally started to wake up to the truth. I think the 2x4 across the side of the head finally got my attention, and what I realized is that once I became fully aware of the truth of who I really am, then my purpose for being started to come into view. As soon as I got that first piece, then everything else kind of just fell into place. And now, once I have a sense of purpose, it's much easier to, illuminate the vision, write it all out in some detail, and then figure out what kind of actions I want to be taking that are in alignment with who I am and that vision that I'm trying to create. And so you already talked about, trying to heal the world, something that you wanted to do. And there's a deep calling inside us. We see this world around us that doesn't look very healthy. And we know that really the healing has to start inside anyway. But the more we can heal ourselves, the more we can kind of create that ripple effect and have a positive impact and help the world to heal itself as well. So I like that roadmap idea. And so tell me a little bit about what does a roadmap mean to you, and what does it mean to the people that you work with?
Yeah, well, that's a great point. So one of the first things that we do together when I work with my clients is something that I call the life and business compass. And as you were
Sorry, say that
alluding
again.
to, the life and business compass.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the life and business compass is what we do in session one, and it's part of the onboarding experience for our clients. And I do this every single time we bring on a new client simply because, like you just alluded to, if we don't know our purpose, we don't know our top life priorities and how success looks like living according to those priorities, and what are our 3 quarterly business goals, then we don't have a compass, a guiding star, or any idea of where we want to go on that roadmap. So that's step one, is figuring
Hmm.
out what are those life priorities and how do we know that we're actually successfully living according to those life priorities. What are those 3 and only 3 quarterly business goals for the next 3 months that you want to go after that are going to make everything else easier or unnecessary and help you get to those long-term motivating factors? And most importantly, what is that legacy? Why are you here? What is your purpose? What gets you out of bed and so on fire and inspired every single morning, even when life throws you a curveball? And before we hopped on here, David and I were talking about the curveballs life is throwing our way. And yet I still got out of bed excited, inspired to, take action according to my mission and vision, even on the days where I'm tired or burnt out, which is not very often, by the way, because we listen to this compass. But when you have this compass that acts as your guiding star, and it allows you to have more clarification and clarity on what you say yes to and what you say no to. So when you have your life and business compass and you know what success looks like, you will know exactly what to say yes to. That's going to help you get 1% closer to that end goal on your compass. And equally, you'll know exactly what to say no to. Because when you say yes to things that are not aligned to your compass and your long-term goals and your priorities, boy, you're backing yourself into the corner of what I like to call busyness, not business, busyness. And that's where you get burnt out and overwhelmed because you're not clear and you're not being specific on that roadmap. So, of course, you're going to have these tremendous setbacks and you're not going to have space and capacity to do what's really going to move you forward.
Yeah, right. Now, I know the Japanese have a word for this, and the word is escaping my awareness right now. But they talk about this idea of, you mentioned it yourself, having that fire, that desire to get up in the morning and do stuff, even if you're tired, even if you're maybe not feeling the best. There's something about having that sense of purpose that really facilitates that. And, I can't think of how many jobs I've been in my life where I thought, oh God, I got to get up and go to the office and I got to do this and I got to do that. Yeah, that a good part of my life was like that. And it wasn't until I actually really reconnected to that truth of who I am, as I mentioned before, and started understanding my real purpose here, that I was able to say, oh, I actually do like getting out of bed in the morning. I actually do like doing this. I like talking to people. I like sharing with them ideas on how they can improve their lives. I like helping them to get clearer about who they are. That feels really good to me, and it is in alignment. So that's another great point you mentioned, this whole thing about alignment. Once you have a clear sense of your purpose, then saying yes and no is easy. It's like a piece of cake. Oh, is this going to be aligned with who I really am and what I want to bring into this world? Yes, great. Then I'm going to go ahead and do it, or I'll find a way to do it. Is it not? No, then maybe not. Now is not the right time. And it could very well turn out that maybe later something like that will work for me. But right now, the answer is no. I love that you just said all that. That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, it does make it very clear when you have that North Star and that compass on exactly personally and professionally where you want to go. And by the way, one thing I will say is I'm writing book number 2 of Inspiration Contagion on clarity, legacy, and leadership. And boy, David, when you tell the universe you're going to write a book on clarity, life wants to throw you all kinds of curveballs around. Well, gee, we're going to make sure you get really unclear for a second here. So the other thing I want to just put out there is your compass is great, the life and business compass, but you also have to reevaluate it pretty consistently to make sure it's still aligned. because clarity is not a stagnant thing. It is a moving target because life is constantly changing. So that calling, that underlying big calling, once you find that purpose, that's typically pretty much the same. But there are other things like your life priorities and what success looks like, your quarterly business goals that can pivot and shift, as well as how you show up to achieve those. So just kind of a little caveat is, yes, you have the compass, but you also want to make sure you fuel that spark, you check in with that spark, and you make sure you reevaluate it to head in the right direction consistently.
Right. Yeah. All right. Let's talk a little bit about curveballs, because I think you hit on something that's really, really important. I have had this experience. I know everybody has had this experience. And I truly believe when I set my intention, I basically am I'm putting the universe on notice that this is what I'm planning on doing. And the universe will do everything in its power to conspire to bring things into alignment so that comes to pass. But sometimes, even though I'm consciously stating my intention, there's an unconscious part of me that might be resisting that intention. And so consequently, I'm actually sending out mixed messages. And so sometimes the universe will throw up roadblocks or curveballs, as you call them, to say, hey, are you really serious about this? Or were you just, blowing steam? What's the truth here? And so sometimes when you get those obstacles, it's not because the universe is trying to prevent you. The universe is trying to get you to get clarity about what you really want to do. So I think that's a beautiful thing. Thank you for mentioning that. It's something that I think about a lot. And I also like to tell people, I said, think about where you are today. No matter where you are in your life, no matter what you've done in your life, I will bet that you have encountered some kind of obstacle somewhere along the way. And yet you're here. So what does that mean? It means that every obstacle that's been put in your path so far, you found a way over it, under it, around it, or through it. What makes you think that the next obstacle is going to be any different? What makes you think, with a 100% success rate thus far, why do you think that you can't be successful on the next challenge that comes up? So, man, there's so much great stuff coming up here today. Thank you so much. I mean, this is great.
Yeah. And I mean, on the curveball piece or these obstacles, I really truly believe, and it's taken a long time to get to this place, but everything we experience in life happens for us. And when you're in the middle of the storm or grieving that loss, it's hard to see that. But every single experience that I've had, when I am aligned and head in the right direction, is there to recalibrate or reveal something that I really needed to hear. So, for example, last week, my newborn nephew, was in the NICU. And it was a really, really scary and hard and emotionally draining week. And what I learned from that experience that was for me was how amazing my community and my chosen family and my family are, and how supported I actually am. And that felt so good. And I needed to hear that message. And I learned that it's okay to have all of the spectrum of emotions and to feel what I needed to feel and process that in a safe container so that I could be there for my family and I could be there for my clients. And so I learned so much from that experience. So perhaps for those of you who are tuning in today or listening to this replay, if you're experiencing a really difficult season or an obstacle or a challenge or what feels like this massive mountain in the middle of the road, I would ask you, what are you supposed to learn? And sometimes these things get put in our face because we're really not on the right path. There's actually an easier route. And so it's put smack dab in the middle of your face. And kind of like David was saying, hit the 2x4 that hits you upside the head, which is what I had to have with those layoffs. Which one of them I had a concussion with. It was like, okay, we're going to smack her upside the head to see if she finally gets the message. So what are you supposed to learn from this? And what is it opening up next for you? And if you let go of that, which is why I have this lovely tattoo that says let go, because y'all, I need the reminder every single day that yes, take action and then let go and trust that divine timing will work out. That's how I met Laura, who is how I know David, my publisher. And so it's incredible when you take aligned action and then you learn from these obstacles, challenges, and experiences, and you choose to look at the gain versus the gap and the compare and despair. You can do anything in your business.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. You know, and as you're saying, everything happens for us. I think I'll go even a step deeper than that, and I'll say on some level, we invite and activate all of these things that come into our lives. We may not have planned it in this moment. We may not have the mindset that says, I need this now. But I believe that we all, on our spiritual level, before we even manifested in the physical world, had made some kind of arrangement to experience something so that we could have an overall experience of life. And in my case, I now understand what that is, and that is to come to the clear understanding of who I really am. And so the first part of my life was all about forgetting who I am, giving up the truth of who I am, trying to pretend to be somebody else so that I could please other people. All of those little stories that I had in my mind were were the initial part of my journey. And then things started to shift because I said, well, I don't know what my original agreement was, but I figured somewhere along the way I had to go through this shift that says it's time to wake up to the truth of who I really am. So I somehow created that. I probably had a whole bunch of people or other spiritual beings who agreed to participate in my little adventure, while at the same time getting their kind of adventure going. I think the whole thing is absolutely magical and beautiful and fantastic. And so, yeah, there are times when I experience sadness or anger or fear, and that happens. And I'm not going to run away from it. I'm not going to pretend they don't exist. I mean, they're real things. And why not just allow yourself to experience them? Because once you get on the other side, what happens is you realize just how amazing that experience was, that experience of deep, 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 deep grief. And where has it brought you now to this place of opening, this place of a heart that's wide open now? That's kind of what we can look forward to. So trying to suppress our emotions, not only is it just bad for us in terms of, our physical health, but it's bad in terms of denying ourselves the permission to have the experience. And that experience is really what we came here for in the first place.
Yeah.
Sorry, I kind
Well,
of
and
went
it's
on a bit of a
interesting.
rant there.
That's okay. What's kind of cool is that, as we're doing this live recording, Inside Out 2, the movie about emotions, is coming out June 14th, y'all. And I was just working on this really cool marketing campaign for one of my clients around this emotional quiz and assessment. But what this brings to mind for me is that in our marketing as business owners and leaders and entrepreneurs, authors and speakers, if we're not authentically who we are and we're not feeling what we're experiencing, people can sense that. And when they can
Exactly.
sense that you're out of alignment, they're not going to trust your energy and want to work with you. So
Right.
the more you can lean into your story, your purpose, who you are, and feel that and express that in a safe container. And I mean, sure, if something's really fresh, probably don't go on live camera and just, discuss it. But when it is something you've had time to process and you can authentically share that story, why not connect with your ideal client, your ideal business partner, your ideal listener to create a powerful connection? And humans, you connect and heal through stories and in circles. So share your story, and that requires leaning into how you're really feeling.
Yeah, I agree. I think, it's maybe a little bit unfortunate, but the word authenticity gets used an awful lot, and it may even be almost a cliche nowadays. But I honestly do believe that if we embrace this notion of authenticity, that is, uh, take a deep look at the deepest places within yourself and become very knowledgeable about who you really are, and not necessarily who you think you are or who you are pretending to be, but rather who you really are, and start to bring that into the world on a regular basis. You will make a huge difference in your own life and also in the lives of other people. That is where true authenticity comes in, rather than this fake authenticity that we see a lot of in so many places. It doesn't mean you go on, like you say, it doesn't mean you go on camera and emote all your feelings. That's not the point. A lot of that stuff should be done privately and maybe with support of another person or two. But it's not something that you want to, capture on camera and share for the whole world to see. That's not what the point is. But as you say, Holly, Jean, I think that once you get to that place of calmness after an event has taken place, and you've maybe integrated whatever it was that you were supposed to get out of that experience, then you can speak about it and talk about what that experience brought for you, and other people then can benefit from that. And believe me, it's that authenticity, that openness, that vulnerability that actually creates probably the most profound ripples of inspiration that we're trying to recommend here.
Yeah, I mean, the work that I do is incredibly vulnerable and intimate. When you're working with a business owner, that's their baby. When you're working with a speaker and author, that's their story and their message, their purpose of what they want to transform in this world. And so you have to build a really safe container where they can say, Holly, my financial situation is X and I want to be here in 6 months. Or Holly, this thing isn't working. This is where we are seeing some failure, or we're seeing some losses. Holly, this is where our sales conversions are failing. And being able to be very open and honest and vulnerable about where you are, so that we can work together and fix that, improve that, plug those profit leaks, and help you get on the right path to being more successful in your business, in your books, in your speaking journey, is powerful. But it only happens when you find the right person that you can work with and share that. And that's super scary and vulnerable to be like, gosh, David, these are my skeletons in the closet and I need your help with that. And be able to trust that David is going to not share that with the world, but also use that in a way to build you up and say, gosh, you've done these things really well, David, but here's the next step in that's going to actually help us accelerate growth in the right direction without making you feel like a failure.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think that vulnerability is probably one of our greatest strengths, contrary to what, most public statements would say about that. A lot of people think that vulnerability is weakness. I think that's completely wrong. It takes great courage to look at maybe some parts of yourself that you're not super happy with. But how can you love yourself if you don't love even those darkest parts? And if you don't love all of yourself, then how can you ever hope to be a truly authentic person who knows him or herself and who brings the fullness of that into the world?
Yeah. Yeah. And if you don't have that within yourself, you also aren't filling up your cup enough to be able to have that ripple effect, whether it's through speaking, through your book publications, through your nonprofit, through your business. You have to fill up your own cup so that you can be there for the people you love the most, including your family, your partner, your children. And even if the legacy you're trying to build is one for your children and grandchildren, you want to show up as the very best version of yourself every single day. And of course that changes. And, since we're talking about vulnerability and emotions and this roller coaster we call life and entrepreneurship, there are going to be days where you're not perfect, where you miss the mark. As long as you approach that from a learner's mindset instead of a fixed growth mindset where you fail that day, it's, give yourself some grace that day. What did you learn from this? What lesson is, the universe, this experience trying to teach you that's for you? And when you reframe it that way, it feels like a lot less pressure and it's more exciting because then you're learning with every experience and every curveball and every day where it feels like you're not 100%. And that's okay. We're not meant to be 100% every day.
Right on. And, as you say, doing your best doesn't mean you're perfect. And furthermore, and I think you kind of alluded to this, on any given day, you might not be 100%, but you can still give the best of what you have in that moment, no matter what that moment looks like. I mean, as you were talking, I was thinking, yeah, think about somebody who's on the battlefield and has been wounded and still is so concerned about his or her platoon or whatever, that do everything to protect the platoon, even if it means dying in the next moment. You know, you're doing your absolute best right till the last possible moment. I think that's, if you can come to the end of your life and say, I lived every moment full out, you're going to be satisfied. That's really what we're
Yeah.
trying to say here.
Yeah, and I mean, my nickname, David, is Jetpack. Jetpack Jackson. And so, like you said, a lot of people, they say, "Oh, you're so young to have accomplished so much." And I think it's because I have this interesting drive that I was just born with. And I think the contract that I agreed to before I was in this lifetime was to do a lot of things. And so I have this crazy drive. And that also means that sometimes Jetpack needs to refuel her tank and chill out. And she can't go like the Energizer Bunny all the time. So the thing that I have had to learn continuously is that I am not Superwoman, and that I am a human, and that it's okay to have days where I need to be lazy, to refuel and recover and reintegrate the things that I have experienced. So for those of you who are recovering perfectionists and very type A driven individuals, it is equally important to start valuing rest and recovery, because believe it or not, in those moments where you rest, recover, and let go, that is where the biggest magic and miracles happen for you. I will repeat that. When you rest, recover, and appreciate and make space for that to let go, that's where the magic happens. And when you're aligned and you're going after that correct compass that we've discussed, and you have all of these points of integration and rest, it's amazing what opportunities come before you.
Yeah. I love that. Rest, recover, and appreciate. That's beautiful, because, it reminds me of one of the things that I share with my clients. I mean, just imagine you are on a mission, and you're climbing a mountain, and this mountain is right in front of you. And after you've gone a while, you look up and you say to yourself, Jesus, it feels like I've hardly gone anywhere. Look at how much more mountain there is to go. Well, if you can just stop for a moment, just stop, take a couple of breaths, and turn around and look down the mountain and see how far you've come. Just that brief moment of appreciation can suddenly fill you up with all kinds of additional energy. That means the next part of the mountain becomes easier for you to attack, rather than feeling like it's a drudgery. That's a really great reminder. Yeah, thank you.
Well, and also, enjoy the journey, you guys. It's
That's
not
right.
about just what the next goal is or the next summit is. But my goodness, the mountains that I have climbed, literally as a rock climber or as a hiker, they're so beautiful and so much more enjoyable when I stop and take in the view. I stop and I reflect and integrate on the experience and who I shared that experience with, whether it's myself, my dog, a rock climbing partner, a friend, a family member. So next time you're feeling that struggle and you just keep looking at the summit, enjoy the journey. Get back to a place of gratitude. Get back to a place of celebrating even the tiniest of little wins. And I love that movie. I don't know if you guys, if this is aging me a little bit, seen that movie, What About Bob?
Yeah.
But I love it. What About Bob? He's got a lot of issues and he's scared of quite a few things socially. And so his therapist tells him baby steps to the elevator to get outside, baby steps. So in your business and on your journey, if you keep focusing on the summit, what is the next baby step you can take? And what is the next baby step you can celebrate? And the more you celebrate the journey and these small steps, the more you're going to enjoy the journey. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be rewarding, and you'll be in a state of gratitude. And what you want is you want to focus on more of what you do desire, and you don't want to focus on all the things that you don't want. So the more you can be in a state of gratitude and celebration and excitement on your journey, it's going to be a lot more rewarding and a lot more fun and attract a lot more of the right people.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's really important, I think, to The baby steps idea is a good one. And I remember I've been working in men's groups, and a man might be talking about this great project that he's got going, and it's obviously not going to be done in a week. Let's say it might take a year or something, and so he'd kind of get down on himself because he's not moving fast enough or whatever. And then I'd always say to him, I said, okay, so let's look at this, and let's just forget about what the final result is for a moment. What's one thing you can do this week, just this week, that'll move you just a tiny step closer to getting that thing done? And when you narrow it down and you bring your focus into that one tiny thing, all of a sudden it seems so much easier and lighter, and you can go and do that, and you may end up getting 2 things done, or maybe 3. But the point is, if you can just commit yourself to that one small thing, you move yourself a little bit closer to where you're trying to go. And then, as you say, you can enjoy the journey. You can enjoy each single step that you take. It's a beautiful process.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the biggest villains that I see, or robbers of our mindset and success, is what I like to call Oliver Overwhelm. And Oliver Overwhelm is evil. He is a terrible villain that I see countless business owners, entrepreneurs, authors, and speakers struggle with. So when you're feeling Oliver Overwhelm, that's that villain on your shoulder sneaking in and telling you all the things that you have to do that make you feel paralyzed, and you don't know where to start because it's so big and there's so much. Well, the superhero solution to that super villain is break it down, Betty. Or I guess you could say break it down, Bob, if you want a guy. So break that thing down. Like when Oliver shows up, be like, hey, I see you. I'm going to kick you away. And here's break it down, Betty or Bob, on the other shoulder. And here is how I'm going to break down this particular goal that seems really big into smaller steps that I can actually take action on. When you do that, it kicks Oliver to the curb, and it allows you to take action and move forward.
Yeah, that's I like that. So you've got all these little archetypes that you've got figured out, and each one has a different purpose. One is in your court, you're on your support side, and the other one is one of the enemies, the little obstacle makers that comes into your life. How many of those do you have? I'm sure you're going to tell us more.
Oh, there's quite a few of them. I have it's a worksheet or a tool that's like the 6 core problems and villains that business owners face. So if you guys are interested in that, you can message me. Playful. But the biggest one is Oliver Overwhelm. There's also nicheless Nelly. So business owners that don't want to choose a niche and they want to serve everyone. Then your goal is to choose a starter niche, right? So the solution is that. But anyhow, when Oliver Overwhelm shows up, it means that you're not living according to your compass and you're saying yes to everything because you don't have that clarity.
Yeah. Well, you could take all those characters and write a book.
I am ready to book.
Well, I meant just, some kind of an adventure story for grown-up kids.
Yeah, that's true. I could work with Laura on the brave kids side and connect it to adults.
Have to be for children. It could be for adults. It's targeted towards adults, but to the inner child within the adult.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That sounds like it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it would be a lot of fun. Good idea. You guys heard it here first.
For another thing for you to do, right?
Yeah, we'll see. That's not on the compass right now, David, but I'll put it on the list for the future.
Sure. All right. So we talked at the beginning. We talked about, first of all, the roadmap, setting a plan, getting clear on purpose, and all the rest of this stuff. And then in this last little section, we talked a little bit about breaking things down. I'd like you to be more specific about this notion of what is an actionable step? What does that actually mean? And how can we differentiate between some other kind of step that might not be desirable?
Yeah. So when it comes to actionable steps, let's say, for example, I'll name a random, not real client, Rhonda. Let's say Rhonda comes to me and says, Holly, I want to grow my launch list or my email list. Okay. What's your specific goal there, Rhonda? And she'll say, well, I'd like to get it to 1,000 and I'm at 200 today. Okay. Well, how are you attracting people to your launch or email list today? Do you have any lead magnets? Are you posting on social media? Do you have any referral partners? So we start kind of digging into how Rhonda's currently attracting folks and where there are some gaps or low-hanging fruit opportunities for her to take action on that's really easy. We also want to talk to Rhonda about, what is in her wheelhouse of what she's most comfortable doing, and where does Rhonda feel resistance or objections to taking action? Because ultimately, when you start taking action on building accomplishment towards that specific goal, we want things that are easy and comfortable and in your wheelhouse initially. So let's say Rhonda doesn't like doing Instagram lives or coming on TV with David because she's scared of being on camera. Well, Rhonda can start by building a lead magnet that we just share with, images and text through different social media outlets. Perhaps Rhonda has cross-promotional email partners that she can share her information in her lead magnet to people that are non-competitive partners that serve the same audience in completely different ways so that everybody wins. And that person has a bigger email list, but Rhonda has this really cool asset that they need. So they're willing to share it with their list and get Rhonda some people building up her email or launch list. So you can get really creative. So what is a specific action in this particular example that Rhonda can take? Well, first of all, Rhonda can figure out what is the lead magnet that her audience needs that's going to solve the biggest problem that they have today, so that we're clear on who she's serving and we have something tangible that they're going to want to sign up for in exchange for their email and their name. So Rhonda can build that thing out. And perhaps Rhonda also wants to start actually building the technology to deliver that. But the first step is really just, what is the lead magnet? What is that thing that's going to hook your ideal client, your email list, that your cross-promotional partner is going to want to leverage and use? So that's one example. I mean, we work on things anywhere from growing revenue a certain percentage to decreasing sales conversion cycles to increasing your sales conversion rate on phone calls, to anything that is related to marketing. But that's just one specific example.
Right. Okay, I got it. Yeah, so actionable steps is kind of like what I was talking about before. It's something that moves you a little bit closer to your final goal. And of course, you don't have to have all of the answers right up front. Sometimes, even if you did have all the answers, you may discover that you reach a certain point and you realize that the next thing isn't what you really need to be doing. It might be something quite different after that. So that's really important, to be constantly giving yourself feedback about, feeding this information back into your overall loop, your vision loop, your objective loop, and saying, is this still working? Am I getting the results that I want? Am I enjoying the journey? Actually, maybe that should be your first question. Am I living the life, as it were, And if you can answer yes to those and everything is moving along, then of course you continue. And if necessary, if the answer is no for any reason, then you can adjust, make a change, make some kind of modification that you hadn't really thought about before. So I think that's really, really important. Yeah, thank you for that. So now you talked also at the beginning about somehow doing this in a holistic manner. So let's talk a little bit about that. How do we make this whole process holistic? And I don't know what your definition of holistic is, but for me that means involving my heart, my body, my mind, and my soul together in a nice, holistic way.
Yeah. So when it comes to the folks we work with, I will say most of the clients that we attract as a business are generally spiritual in one way or another. It's not required, but I'd say most of them are, probably because our marketing talks a lot about universe aligned actions, all these things that attract the right client for us. So when we're saying holistic, it's in the tagline on the logo on our website. It says health, clarity, business. When we look at health as a segment of the business owner, the leader, the speaker, the author, what we mean by whole health is spiritually, physically, and emotionally. That person is showing up as a leader that's authentic, they're aligned, they know what their purpose is, they're taking healthy they are living a way in life that inspires the people that are on their team, that are part of their movement, that part of the nonprofit, that are their clients. Because if we're not walking the talk of what we are selling, teaching, doing, then how on earth are we supposed to be a magnet to attract those ideal clients, partners, employees? You won't, and you won't keep them or retain them. So it's really interesting. We're in a time in life more than ever today where leaders need to be highly attuned to how they're showing up, and they need to find best practices daily so that they are walking the talk of what they're teaching, so that they can create incredible employee experiences, incredible customer experiences. And there's more competition today than ever because pretty much everything out there exists. It's not like we have brand new ideas that don't completely exist. So you're competing based on what differentiates you, and that's your experience, who you are as a leader, your vision, and your values. And that starts with the health of the leader, the health of the co-founders, the health of who you're hiring into your organization. So when we have health and clarity for that leadership team, it makes everything easier for your business. You know how to hire the right people, you know how to create the right experience for your customers, and you know how to create the right journey for the legacy you want, whether that's a nonprofit, a foundation, giving back to your children, your grandchildren, having an exit strategy ready for passing your business on to your grandchildren or your children. And the more you can balance that, it's going to make your journey super easy, and a lot of magical opportunities will open up.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that sounds that sounds beautiful, actually. Very impressive. Thank you for that. So now another thing that you talked about was this idea of giving, and I think people might misunderstand what that really means. I mean, it doesn't mean that we're giving with no particular purpose or anything like that. So why don't you talk a little bit about what that means for you and how you integrate that into whatever it is you're doing with a client?
Yeah, absolutely. So, man, we could talk a whole hour or like year about giving. So, when your business and sales and creating your legacy are really a lot about law of reciprocity. Relationships are not built without giving and generosity. And the clients that we work with, we actually ask questions to make sure that they're actually growth mindset and that they're abundance mindset. Because if they're fixed mindset and they're lack mindset, it's very difficult for us to work with them. So what I mean by that is if we think of other folks that are doing or providing similar services to us, we're going to look at them as competition. That's simply not the case. If we can actually win together and support people because there's better chemistry between David and one of my clients versus me and one of my clients, and we do the same thing, great, everybody wins. That's amazing. So whether it's reaching out for networking or a collaboration opportunity with a business partner or somebody we're going to show, somebody we're going to cross promote with, or somebody who's a potential client, we always start with giving to them. We start by offering them, we want to get on a group call to see if you are a fit for collaborating, a fit for our podcast, a fit for our community. And if we know somebody that's going to be a high value custom introduction that's going to make your journey, your goals easier, we're going to make that today. When you show up and you give and you mean that gift and you provide that deep connection, people automatically want to work with you. They don't see things as competition. They see the value of how you are only if you do this authentically. If you do this and you're kind of fake about it, you don't actually follow through, people can see that. But when you show up and you give and you give and you give, and then you offer value based on a pain point that they have and you meet them where they are, you're actually building this opportunity to open a door for them to say, gosh, I want to work with Holly Jean Jackson and her business on this because she's been so generous. Or I want to invite Holly to speak at my event because she's added so much value through connections. So the more you can integrate points of giving, you'll be successful. And then there's one more layer to this that's really important. when you have a legacy, for example, like my long-term legacy is starting a nonprofit called InspiRed for children. So it's going to help children have more confidence, more access to mindfulness tools, and have access to entrepreneurship at younger ages. The long-term vision of the company is going to be a percentage of every single sale that we make will go towards InspiRed to help children between 13 and 16 have access to these tools for future generations to create amazing healing opportunities and businesses that are going to cure our world, so to speak. So when you're able to align your legacy with your company and create that social opportunity where people can socially vote with their dollars based on socially conscious solutions, you are going to sell more because if you're, if I'm competing against Rhonda or Dave over here and they have exactly the same service, but they're not actually giving back to something that's a bigger cause or a bigger movement, I'm going to go with the person who has the cause or the movement if it's aligned to what I believe in.
Right. And there's a lot of important stuff in what you've just said. And one thing I want to add to the whole idea of giving is it has to be authentic giving, as you already mentioned. And what that means to me is that I have to give without any expectation of a return. If otherwise it's not giving at all, then it's trading, and there's a big difference in that. And it's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with trading, as long as you're upfront about it, right from the get-go. But when you're offering something as a gift, don't expect anything in return, because otherwise then you're not being authentic. On the other hand, the second point I want to make about this, I think some people can deplete themselves way too much because they give, and don't ever really open the space for receiving. And part of the flow of life is that, something has to come back to me in some form, and it may just be gratitude, it may just be love, it may be something like that I'm getting back by virtue of my giving. But if I'm not getting that, then it's time to say, wait a minute, maybe I'm giving too much. So
yeah,
I think it's like we have to set our own boundaries at times, and we have to say, okay, I love giving and I want people to have this, and I need to make sure that I have enough for myself too.
Yeah, I mean, you can't give if you're not filled up yourself.
Right.
So
if you're that, filling up your own cup.
Yeah, and if you're in a season where you need to receive more, it's okay to say that. I recently, a few weeks ago, was at a writer's retreat, and we did a lot of really deep spiritual work, and it was interesting because I was actually speaking at this event, but also receiving at this event. And some of the things that we did really opened me up to this really deep place of vulnerability. And I remember having to have a conversation with myself of, it's okay. You're pretty emotionally raw right now, and you need to have some space alone. And running into one of the people at this retreat, and this person was like, hey, can I go on the hike with you to the waterfall? And I said, as long as we are not going to talk about anything heavy, you're not going to give me a hug, I am not in a place where I can actually offer any kind of emotional support right now. So it's really important to know where you are every moment and set healthy boundaries and express what you need. And then also, when you know what you need, communicate that and be willing to receive it. And this is really hard. It's something that's taken me a long time to get, and I sometimes still struggle with it. But when we refuse to receive what somebody else is offering us, do you remember how good it feels to give and have that person receive that gift?
Yep.
When we refuse that, we're refusing a gift that somebody else needs to feel received. And so you're basically rejecting their love, and you're not allowing them to grow when you don't allow yourself to receive. So if you're hearing this and you're one of these people that struggles with receiving, put yourself on the other side of that gift and see how it feels to have that gift rejected. And the fact that you're not giving that person that loves you the opportunity to grow and offer you something of value that you need. So yes, it goes back and forth. You want to give, and of course it needs to be authentic. And then if you're in a season where you ultimately need to receive, step back, see what those boundaries are, and fill your cup back up before you start giving again.
Right. You know, I'm glad you brought this up. This is something that I tell people all the time. You know, we hear in our culture that it is better to give than to receive. And I think that that is 100% wrong. It's backwards. It is actually better to receive than to give because you accomplish both parts of the equation in one action. But just like giving, you have to receive authentically too. You know, you can't just receive because somebody's offering you something, but you have to open yourself to it and be willing to say, thank you for this gift. If you're not able to do that, if you're not able to bring yourself to that place of gratitude for what this person is offering, then you're probably better off to say, thank you very much for the offer. Can I just hold you there for a moment? Because I really got to do some stuff on myself and I need to take this time now to do it. Can I come back to you? So don't just shut somebody off. Let them know that there's something going on for you, and then create the space for yourself to do what you need to do and then return. This is one of the things that I see happen so often in any kind of relationship. One person gets pissed off and basically storms out, and there's no communication at all, and really no resolution to it after the fact. Okay, I'm okay now. Let's carry on where we were as if this didn't happen. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. You know, it doesn't work that way. Remember, every thought, word, action, and emotion that I engage in has a ripple effect. And every choice I make has a consequence. So I'm responsible for all of those things. And if I don't take that responsibility, well, then you're not going to trust me at all. That's the way it's going to go, right? So I want to make sure we catch this last topic before I close out. And just really, we've talked about a lot of great things here today. I would like you to speak a little bit about the whole notion of a ripple effect, what that really means for you.
Yeah, so a ripple effect for me in the work that I do with my clients and the work that I do through my business and this future nonprofit means you are living aligned to the compass where we started our conversation. You are taking action that's aligned to your purpose for why you were born in this lifetime. And when you take action aligned to your purpose and your compass, you will have a ripple effect because your action is aligned, because that's exactly what you're here to do, and nobody else is here to do it the way you can do that thing. So for my healers out there, because I know y'all struggle with selling and revenue and all of that, if your purpose is to heal the world, however that looks for you as an acupuncturist, a breath work, a light worker, whatever that is, the sales conversation is simply inviting your person to solve their pain, to feel better, to be a better person for their community, their family, their children, future generations, for healing past life trauma. How dare we not step into offering them that solution to their pain simply because we're not willing to receive the energetic exchange of money? So I'm just saying that for all you healers out there, because I see you, I hear you every day as clients. And as a healer myself, them investing in their future is a huge part of the healing process. And so when you take aligned, purpose-driven action, you have massive ripple effects beyond what you can even fathom or know fully in this lifetime. So I guess my last message would be take action that matches the size of your dreams and the size of the purpose you were put on this planet to live and walk by.
Yeah, that's really, really beautiful. And the thing that I also recognize when I imagine that I'm here to heal the world, that's way too big for me. I can't even encompass that in my mind. But what I can embrace is the ability to heal just one person somehow. I mean, I don't really believe that I'm a healer anyway. I believe that what I am is a facilitator of healing. That is to say, You're going to do your own healing, and I might find a way to help you heal more quickly. But you're going to have to embrace whatever I bring you. But what I want to say here is that if I can just get one person to benefit from my words, my thoughts, my action, whatever I'm offering, that one person might turn out to be the catalyst that changes everything in the entire world. So
Yeah.
just because you don't necessarily have a following like Tony Robbins or somebody like that doesn't mean you cannot have a major impact on the world. Your major impact may simply come in a different form. That's all. And so don't ever minimize yourself and think, I'm just a little guy, I have no impact. That's not true. You have an impact every single moment of every single day.
100%.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Holly Jean, we have covered a lot of ground in this hour, and it's basically time to kind of close out. But before I do, I wanted to give you a chance, if you like, to say any final words or make an offer, if you'd like to do that.
Yeah. So we talked so much today about the Life and Business Compass. I encourage you to find that. You can email me at holly@hollyjeanjackson.com. Find the website at www.hollyjeanjackson.com. And I'll give David the link for that so you can download your Life and Business Compass and take action on that, because if you have that, it makes everything else so much easier. And I want you to have that compass so you can have that ripple effect in your community and in the world.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Holly Jean. I really appreciate having you here today. It's good to get to know you, and I'm just so impressed with your wisdom. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you. It was great. It's great to add value to your listeners. Thank you, David.
Right. So the ripples of inspiration that anyone can create will inevitably define your legacy. Now, by clarifying your vision and aligning your action with your goals, you set the foundation for meaningful success. At the same time, you give yourself a clear direction for your intentions. Embrace the power of your influence and watch as your small acts of inspiration create waves of positive change in the world around you. I want to thank you all for watching today's program. And remember, you can catch the recordings of this and every other episode on my website at lifemasterytv.com. And friends, I want to invite you to remember to practice my Life Mastery mantra every single day. It just goes like this, very simple. I gratefully forgive the imperfect being I have been in the past. I gratefully accept the magnificent being I am right now. I gratefully welcome the evolved being I am becoming in each new moment. So until we meet again, I'm David McLeod, your Life Mastery Coach, wishing you love, light, and blessings on your continuing journey. See you next time right here on Life Mastery TV. Bye-bye.